Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and all bromeliad enthusiasts of all ages. Another episode in our Brilliant Society of La Buena Valley Zoom videos. We have with us today some very special folks from Brazil. The person making our presentation is Filipe Varella. How you doing, Filipe?
Okay, great. Thank you, Barry.
And accompanying him, our very special guest and made other presentations for us, is Pedro Nahum. Pedro, how are you?
Fine, thank you very much.
Did I pronounce the name right? I try hard. Okay. And then also here today, the co-facilitator of these videos is Ken Simpson from another club member of some 40 or 50 years of our Brilliant Society of La Buena Valley. How are you doing today, Ken?
I'm doing great, and I've been waiting for weeks to get together with them, and I'm excited to have the opportunity to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. And, this is very special for us. None of this is only about our club. It's about trying to unite the whole world of bromeliad lovers and collectors and to introduce this subject to younger people, to bring them in to learn more about bromeliads, and also to really feature and let them understand the very central role that Brazil has played in giving its species, allowing their species to migrate to the rest of the world, very often not at their own choosing. But the plants are here, and we really appreciate the contribution Brazil has made to the the hobby of collecting bromeliads.
Yeah,
On that note, I'm going to let Ken shift this over to Filipe and give him his video screen to share. All right, folks, we're going to hear Filipe give his presentation on the bromeliads from southern Brazil.
Okay. Can we start?
Yes.
Okay. Well, first I would like to say I'm really very happy to be here with you today. Thanks to Barry, thanks to Pedro for inviting me for be here with you. It's always a pleasure to talk about bromeliads, especially the bromeliads of my state, Rio Grande do Sul, and Santa Catarina state, the state that is immediately at north of Rio Grande do Sul, and that we will talk about because the flora of that state is very related to the flora of Rio Grande do Sul. We're going to see a lot of bromeliads and orchids pictures because I have been studying them for the last 25, almost 30 years. I am not a botanist. I'm an amateur researcher of the fauna and the flora of south of Brazil. I'm a lawyer. I am graduated in 99, but in the end of the 19s, I started to study bromeliads and orchids, especially in nature. I've been in many places looking for species, sometimes new species. Our work is we have a site about the orchids of Rio Grande do Sul. The idea is having a site about the bromeliads too one day. I have a lot of articles about orchids and bromeliads of my state. The German Society, the German Bromeliad Society, published 8 or 9 articles about the bromeliads of Rio Grande do Sul, including some special articles about some genus like Tillandsia, Vrisia, and Ecmeia. I would like to say these 3 genus are my favorites, especially Tillandsia. In the last years, I have been studying the Jicia genus too, because we have a lot of endemic species of Jicia in Rio Grande do Sul. And these last 20 years, 25 years, a lot of new species was described. And I think next years we'll have more species, more new species, because I know some guys that are working with that. And year after year, there's always 1 or 2 new species they finding. I'm like very much to go to the habitats. All these years, I have many times come back to some places because we have 4 seasons. In such season has a different situation when you go there to see a place. You can see a plant that is blooming in September, October, and then you go in March or April is another situation with other plants. And sometimes you don't find the same thing you had seen before. You see new things, new plants, new animals, and it's always a pleasure for me. This site I told about the orchids of Rio Grande do Sul. I'm gonna show you the link later. It's a work I have with a friend called Jack Klein. Yeah, we have 2 new species of orchids that we discovered, and that for us is a very great result of this work. To find a new species in these years when almost everything is already described, is always a new situation. Is always a very happy news when we find something really new, something that was never seen before. In bromeliad, it's a little difficult, but as I told before, Dica and Tillandsia are genus that has always some possibility to find a new species in Rio Grande do Sul or Santa Catarina or in any other Brazilian state. I chose to find a presentation, to see a presentation working with the genus of bromeliad we have here. So we're going to see Ecmea, Bibergia, Neuregelia, Vrisia, genus by genus. I think it's better for us talking about them and for us showing, especially pictures in habitat, pictures of bromeliads in situ. Like I would like to see if I would go to see a presentation about bromeliads. We're going to see a lot of color form varieties, a lot of macro photographs showing details of the plants, of the flowers, of the inflorescence. And I think if you have a doubt or some question, please you can ask, or we can let it for before the presentation is done. Like I said before, I always like to show where I am and where Rio Grande do Sul stays in the world. So let's begin it. Well, it's not working well. The slide, it stopped. Maybe I have to do it again. Just a minute. Okay. Yeah. Well, here you have the Rio Grande do Sul situation in South America. We are the southern state of Brazil, the southernmost state in Brazil. You see Santa Catarina here. It's the next state from us. These are the 2 states I always like to study the habitats of orchids and bromeliads. Here you see those states with Paraná. It's the other state of South Brazil. We have 3 states in the region called South of Brazil, but we will gonna see just pictures from Rio Grande do Sul and Santa Catarina, Florida. Here's a little vision of the 6 biomes we have in Brazil. It's important to see it because you can see that Rio Grande do Sul, you have 2 biomes, the Pampa, that we have the fields, and the Atlantic forest. It's the rainforest. All this blue color comes from the northeast until the south of the country. Here we have how Rio Grande do Sul was 200 years ago. You can see the green space here. It was all the Atlantic forest covering 3 parts of the state. And here in yellow, we have the Pampa, that it's the other biome we have that goes to Uruguay and Argentina. This map shows how it is today. You can see the great green forest we had here 200 years ago. We don't have it anymore. We have just fragments. The great part that remain is in this part of the state, along the coast. And all this part that was in the middle of the state is already reduced to just some fragments of green forest. Here's a little collection of pictures showing how our rainforest is, with its fauna and its flora. It's a lot of waterfalls, a lot of rivers, and of course, a lot of bromeliads along all this place. Here's a record of the Restinga forest. That is just a little part of the rainforest. You can see in the second plane there, the mountains that will become the Araucária forest in the highlands of Rio Grande do Sul. In this first image we have, in this first part of the image we have, we are at the sea level. It's a typical rainforest of the sea level of Rio Grande do Sul. And then here you have the mountains 30 kilometers away, where it begins the Araucária forest. That is the forest we have in the highlands of the state. I like to show it because these two situations show exactly how can our flora change. It's not so far, this place from there, it's just 30 kilometers, but it's another flora completely different between them. The Araucária forest is this forest you see in this picture. It's a lot of conifers that we have in the Paraná, Santa Catarina, and Rio Grande do Sul, only in the high fields. For maybe 5 or 6 million, it began to be formed, and it lives until these days. Of course, the situation we have here is not the situation that we had many years ago. This is a place of altitudes between 700 and 180 meters the altitude. It's another flora typical of this region, completely different from the flora we have at the sea level. Here is a Araucária forest, showing exactly how it is. A great group of plants, a great group of conifers gathered together. Again.
Beautiful.
And again, because sometimes we have conifers isolated, the isolated trees and the fields that are characteristics of this region. We call it the highlands. This is other situation, the Pampa. A lot of isolated trees, a lot of rocks, a lot of cactus, and a situation that is completely different from the forest. Here we have just some group of isolated trees, not so far, not so more than 50 or 60 trees are in such place. And many rocks, and in consequence, many terrestrial orchids and terrestrial bromeliads. Again, some pictures of the Pampa. Here you have an Achimeia recurvata living on rocks. Dica, this is Dica hebdingi, living on rocks too, under full sun. Cactus, like I said, there's a lot of species of cactus, many endemic cactus of this region of Pampa. Some terrestrial orchids, all of them very difficult to find and very characteristic to this region of the Pampa because it reproduces a little part of Patagonia in Argentina. So some orchid species that we have in Patagonia with that cold time and that cold winter that exists there, we find it sometimes at Rio Grande do Sul, but only in the Pampa, not in the rainy forest for sure. Well, now let's go to the subject that really imports to this conversation, our bromeliads. We have around 95, 100 species of bromeliads in Rio Grande do Sul. In Brazil, we have, I think, Pedro, maybe you know that, 3,050, 500, something like that, 400,
Yeah,
4,000 species.
Yeah, it's always changing, but it's around that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we can talk about 4,000 species maybe. So in Brazil, in Rio Grande do Sul, not more than 100 species, divided into 10 genus. Achimeia, Ananás, Bilbergia, Bromelia, Dica, Edmundoa, Nidularium, Tillandsia, Vrisia, and Vitrochia. By the way, Orchidaceae, it's another situation. We have around 400 species, and the number of genus between 100 and 110. Why I said around this number because it's always changing, like Pedro said, especially in orchids. In orchids, the last 20 years, we had a lot of modifications in the taxonomy. So many new species was described, but especially many changes were done in the genus and in the name of the species. Many species passed to other genus, and many species were considered synonyms of another. So the number is really very variable. Let's start with Echimeia. We have 9 species at Rio Grande do Sul, maybe more 3, Echimeia caudata, Echimeia comata, and Echimeia kertesi, but we're not sure about that. We've never seen it in our state, but only in Santa Catarina state. And then you find there also Echimeia blumenavi, Echimeia ornata, Echimeia petinata, and other species. I believe these 3, I thought that doesn't occur here, really does not occur. We only have these 9 species, and maybe one day it appears another one, I don't know. Let's begin with Echimeia caliculata, one of the most known. Very easy to find in the rainforest. It blooms in our end of summer, beginning of our autumn. 2 forms of the inflorescence. See how pyramidal is this one and how spherical is this other. Here we have some 3 friends that we'll see in another pictures. This bird we call Cambasica is Cereba flaviola. It's always a friend of the pollination of all my Echimeia species. He likes them very much. Some insects too. Because I have all my bromeliads at home, my nursery is at my home, I don't have it in another place, then I can see the plants almost days. Every day I'm here, every day I'm seeing them, every day I'm changing the plants from place, but I'm always looking, and then I can see something that happens all the days.
Very nice.
Here's again the Cambasica, the Cereba flaviola with Echimeia districanta. Yeah. It's one of the biggest Echimeia we have. Echimeia gamocephala and some of its colors. It's a very interesting genus, species, because there are a lot of color forms in this species. You can see 3 of them here. Again, the bombus, it's a bee that like very much Echimeia flowers. You have 4 of those color variations of Echimeia gamocephala, including the alba form, and other that are variations of the typus form. I believe we can see 7 or 8 color variation of this one. Here it's in situ, in the rainforest. Echimeia gamocephala is a plant that likes very much to be not so far from the soil. It doesn't like to be in the top of the trees. It likes to be 2 or even 3 meters from the soil, not much more than that. Or under the sun and as a terrestrial habit. Here it is in Santa Catarina state, not far from the sea, and with its roots in the sand. Like this one, it's Echimeia gamocephala variedade nivea. Also in Santa Catarina state, you can see the ocean there, the Atlantic. I think it's from 50 or 60 meters from the ocean. Here it is flowers of variedade nivea. For me, one of the most beautiful. Echimeia joannis, it is a species that was described just 20 years ago by Therese Estrel, that passed away 15 years ago, but she was studying a great quantity of new species for Rio Grande do Sul, and this was one of the species that she discovered. I believe it was I don't remember the year. I found this species exactly in the same forest where the typus was discovered 15 years before. I have this, I found it when it was no blooming, but its leaves were so different Then I thought, no, it cannot be just a recurvata. It has to be another kind of Echimea, maybe a natural hybrid. Impossible, really. Everybody thinks that Echimea johannis can be an hybrid between Echimea gamosepala and Echimea recurvata because it has characteristics of these two species, even the color. Echimea nudicalis, one of the most known species we have here, but one of the most ornamental ones. It can be found in the interior of the forest and also around the coast of most part of the states of the Brazilian coast, not only in Rio Grande do Sul, Santa Catarina, and Paraná, but going until the northeast of the country. Again, Echimea nudicalis, some details of the flowers. I really like very much this one because it was one of the first bromeliads I've seen in nature. Was responsible for all this passion made. Here again, Echimea nudicalis, but what interests here is the nest of the Cambasica, the Cereba flaviola, three little birds there, and the leaves of Echimea nudicalis. Here you see Echimea nudicalis in nature with a Cattleya intermedia, that is one of the most known orchid we have in Rio Grande do Sul. Sorry, this tree doesn't exist anymore. It's the same tree that we have in this picture. Some years ago, the tree fallen, and with all the bromeliads and all the orchids that were there. This, you can see, this situation is Cattleya intermedia in Echimea nudicalis. It was in September. It is the month where when Cattleya intermedia blooms. And this is Cattleya purpurata, or called Lelia purpurata. It's another orchid in the same tree. You can see a Cattleya purpurata has just one leaf, and Cattleya intermedia has two leaves. Another difference between them. Here is a Filipe Coburgi. And the Cattleya intermedia that was in flower in September is here. But in December, it's not its time. It's time to see Lelia purpurata blooming. I like very much this picture because it has a lot of orchids and bromeliads in the same situation. You see purpurata here, you see Echimea nudicalis here, and in this record here, you will see this situation with 3 or 4 orchid species, Prostecheia vespa, Brassavola tuberculata, and Lelia purpurata, and a lot of bromeliads too.
Very nice.
Yeah, it is along the coast of Rio Grande do Sul. A December picture, because when you see Cattleya purpurata blooming, it's December, it's our summer. Again, here we have Vrisia gigantea and the Cattleya purpurata and nudicalis again. It's a protected area. It's not easy to find Cattleyas in its habitat in Brazil these days. But when you have a protected area, it gets a little easier. Another possible natural hybrid, this is Echimea pimenti velozoi. I think it's a natural crossing between Echimea recurvata and Echimea caliculata. It gets an specialization. Now it's a species because it was not found just 1 or 3 or 2 times. We have many encounters with this plant in its habitat. And you see again the Cambasica Cereba flaviola. It's really a friend of my Echimeas. Echimea recurvata, another one of my favorites because it's great quantity of color variations and great changes of habitats this species has. You can see it in many places, in many different places, in the interior of the forest, under full sun, on the rocks, on the trees, and with all these color variations. So it's always fantastic to talk about this one.
That upper right is beautiful.
Yeah.
They all are.
Here a close-up with these yellow sepals and pink petals. Another one. Here you can see the difference of color between these sepals and these sepals, and these petals too. a very red one, very red leaves, blooming at full sun in the fields of the highlands of the state. This is where that picture was taken. It is one of those red echimeas you see there. It's a very interesting picture too, because you can see it on the rocks and you can see on the tree too, in the same place. Again, it's in another place, but the same situation, living under full sun. And again, too, this group of plants has a difference. It's under the trees. It's not under full sun. So I believe that form of these leaves gets there because it doesn't take sun all time of the day. And this one takes sun from 7 to 7. Okay, so you can see there's a little difference between the two plants. This one I like very much too, because it shows how Echimea recurvata likes the Araucaria trees. It's a very nice to see it in nature, because you see from long distance that red thing on the tree. It's really great. Echimea vincleri, another species that I think is endemic to Rio Grande do Sul. I'm not sure if it occurs in other states. It's very confused with Echimea caudata, but Echimea caudata we don't have in Rio Grande do Sul. At least we never found it. Echimea vincleri, another form. You can see how different are the flowers here and here. Here again, in nature, Echimea vincleri. Here a comparison with Echimea caliculata for seeing how different they are. Because sometimes some people say that vincleri could be a different caliculata, but I'm not so sure. I think they really are two different species. This is the one I was talking before that doesn't exist at Rio Grande do Sul, but exists in Santa Catarina, Echimea caudata. It has some color form variations of the flowers. Here you have blue flowers. And here you can see the yellow flowers, blue flowers, and that color very beautiful there. That is white with just that part in blue. It's Echimea caudata. I really like to study the color variations of all these species. I think it's very important to see how different can be only one species.
And the pictures are perfect for that. Very nice.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's always a pleasure to do pictures like that, because you can show exactly what you want. And it's great. Echimea comata is another one that doesn't occur at Rio Grande do Sul, but in Santa Catarina only. It likes to be on rocks along the coast, very near from the sea. Echimea kertési, a very rare one. It's like a Gymnosepala, but with that kind of colors, orange sepals, orange bracts, and the yellow flowers. Here it's in the Restinga forest at Santa Catarina State. Echimea ornata, another one that we don't have at Rio Grande do Sul, a very showy one. Like very showy one is Echimea pectinata too, but you can see the difference between the inflorescence. This one gets very red leaves when it's blooming. It's fantastic to see in nature, because you can see from 100 meters away. Well, the genus Ananas, we all know it's most cultivated orchids for eating in the world. Ananas squamosus, Ananas this is Fritz Miller, Ananas Fritz Miller, and Ananas squamosus. Ananas squamosus is the one that we eat. It's a symbol of the tropics, I think, because always you see an ananas we call abacaxi. It's because it's showing something from the tropics. All these species are very similar between them, so it's not very easy to separate them. For me, it's always a problem. You can see some details of the plant, some details of the flowers, to get a conclusion. Here's an Anasphyx miliary again. Bilbergia, one of the most showy genus we have. There are 3 species here, Distachia, nutans, and Zebrina. All of them are really ornamental, really showy inflorescence. Distachia is the most difficult to find here. Here again, Bilbergia distachia. Bilbergia nutans may be the easier Bilbergia species to find in the nature, and one of the most showy too. The flower, the detail of the flowers, the colors are so beautiful in this one.
Yeah, those all bloom
Yeah.
very nicely in our environment here too.
You can see it and living on the rocks under full sun, and you can see it living in the interior of the forest. The difference between them are the leaves. The leaves, when the plant is under full sun, are more rigid and shorter. And in the interior of the forest, they are longer. They like very much the Araucaria forest.
Philippe, just so you know, this is very often the very first plant that most bromeliad collectors in America get. Aside from McMahon fasciata, Bilbergia nutans is sort of called the friendship bromeliad, because everybody gives cuttings to the friends. Sorry.
Bilbergia zebrina, I think it's one of the most ornamental Bilbergia we have here. Maybe one of the ornamental bromeliads we have in Rio Grande do Sul. The problem with all the Bilbergias, it's very short time of the blooming. One in 2 or 3 days, you don't have this color anymore. It's very difficult to the photograph, take the exact moment to take the pictures. Here you have 2 plants in the forest. It's like I said, it's very difficult to see to take the flower in the exact time to get a good picture. And I have this opportunity just 2 times that to see the plant really blooming in nature. This time and this time. Maybe here it was the end of the blooming, but I like this picture because it's a Bilbergia under full sun. Isolated, a palm isolated in the middle of the field, and that Bilbergia there.
It's interesting that it's just a single plant and not a
You know, when you see a Bilbergia in the nature, you don't have more than 2 or 3 plants together. I think it's a characteristic of this species. In Bilbergia nutans is very different. You can see something like this or something like this, a lot of plants, a lot of inflorescence. But with Zebrina, it doesn't happen really. See, only 3 or 4 plants. The genus Bromelia, we have just 1 species, Bromelia antiacantha. Another one that has fruits eatable. We call it banana do mato in Brazil, or something like banana of the forest, these fruits. People used to sell these inflorescence along the roads of our coast and make some drinks with it and even eat it. The birds like them very much, these fruits. Here you have a plant in the field in the Pampa. Bromelia antiacantha is one of the plants that we find in the rainforest and in the fields of the Pampa too. We can find it in our 2 biomes. Genus Dickia, we have a lot of species. I'm not going to show all of them because I don't have pictures of all of them. It's a genus that, like I said, has a lot of new species. In the last 20 years, I think 6 or 7 new species were described, first by Therese Strel, and then the last years by Henrique Bünecker. that is another great botanist that's studying a lot of species in the genus Tillandsia and Jicia. Some of these species were described by him. This is Jicia haitzi, one of the most beautiful we have here. It's from the high fields, living along the canyons we have at Rio Grande do Sul state. Likes very much to be under full sun with these orange flowers. Again, there you see one of these canyons, 800 or 900 meters away goes a river. And the plants we can see it sometimes almost in the edge of the mountains. Like this group. You can see a canyon again there. It's Jicia haitzi. Jicia hebdingi, a great population of this, always on the rocks, under full sun, in the Pampa.
How much water do they get?
Huh?
Does it rain frequently on them?
No. In this part of the state, no, not so frequently but we have the 4 seasons perfectly defined. So you'll see the winter, it really rains a little more. Then they take this time to get the water they need. Then you go to a spring that is not very hot. It's a spring that has 2 months, maybe not so hot as the summer. And then they prepared for a summer that is a little hotter to be there again the next year. Some places I really like a little deserts, but not all of them. Again, you can see how short is the plant. You see my hand there. This is Jicia hebdingi, the same plant here. It has this color, very interesting, this gray color of the leaves. Again, Jicia hebdingi, now blooming. It's in December. December, it's its time to bloom. Jicia alba, it's another plant, different from that one. You can see a colony there. You can see a colony of Tillandsia lawrenceana here. They live together in some great rocks in the middle of the state. Jicia alba again.
Beautiful.
Some very interesting species. Here, Jicia hebdingi and Tillandsia lawrenceana. You can see the Tillandsia, the great population of Tillandsia here. And the Jicia hebdingi is there. Jicia rigida, it's a great one, a large one, maybe the largest we have here. All is in great populations on the rocks too.
How tall is the inflorescence?
1 meter and 50, maybe, sometimes 2 meters, 2 meters high.
Large.
It's a very beautiful one.
Beautiful.
Again, you can see how they like it to be in the rocks under full sun. This is one of the largest Jicia rigida I have seen. Maybe it's more than 2 meters there, 2 meters high. This is another situation they like very much, to be around the waterfalls. In some valleys of Rio Grande do Sul, we have a lot of waterfalls, and it's not so difficult to find them in the situations like this, with the water all the time. There's no problem for that. You can see them here, just far from some river, and you can see them, the same species, practically under the constant water.
Beautiful picture.
Here you have the same species with a colony of Tillandsia winkleri. Tillandsia winkleri is one of, you will see later, but it's one of the species were described by Teresa Strel 20 years ago. Jicia rigida was described by her too, I think the same work or the same magazine. Here again, Jicia rigida with a population of Tillandsia winkleri. Again, you can see Tillandsia winkleri blooming, and around it, this is Tillandsia schiphioides, not blooming because it blooms in the beginning of the summer. while Tillandsia vincleri begins in the middle of spring.
Mm.
And here, Maxillaria marginata, an orchid that is easy to find in this situation, living together with these bromeliads. Again, another situation of orchids and bromeliads together. You could think, what are those flowers? Well, those flowers are the most ornamental flower we have here, that is Cattleya purpurata. I think it's one of the last great purpurata colonies we have, with a lot of plants blooming in this time, in the end of December and beginning of January, together with the Jicia. Here you can see the inflorescence of the Jicia. It's the same species, Jicia rigida, and all these flowers are Cattleya purpurata.
Amazing.
It's one of the most beautiful places I ever seen here. Very beautiful place. Again, and here you have another orchid, Zipidendro fulgens. And here the purpuratas, and all these are Jicia rigida. Here's an old inflorescence. Jicia coleoides is another situation. It likes very much to be in the coast of Rio Grande do Sul. On the rocks we have at the city of Torres. That is the northern city we have here. Its occurrence begins there and goes to Santa Catarina state, always along the coast. Again, Jicia coleoides, the Atlantic over there. Here are the same species, but in Santa Catarina state, under the sand and blooming. Jicia corystamina, this is natural from Porto Alegre, my city. It's not difficult to find them walking in our mountains. Always a little lost in the grass. You have to take care to doesn't shoot it. Excuse me. Jicia corystamina again, the same species. Here you can see the vegetable, how it is. Yellow flowers. Jicia remotiflora, sometimes you can find it with this corystamina. They live in the same habitats. And easy to separate them because of the inflorescence. One is orange, the other one is yellow. Again, Jicia remotiflora. You can see here, it's in a rock with just, I don't know how much soil is here. It's almost just on the rock. Again, remotiflora, some details of the inflorescence, and a visitor. Another situation completely different. We were talking about Jicia's species, all the species from the Pampa, and now we have a typical species of the rainforest. One of the largest bromeliads we have, Edmondoa lindeni, sometimes called Canistrum lindeni. Here's the way this plant likes to be along the rivers, sometimes in the interior of the forest, and sometimes not so far from the water. Again, it's always beautiful to find these species. Here you can see a little miniature orchid called Jicia pendula. Here's this one. Again, Edmondoa. It's always a little park of frogs and hoppers and other insects and animals. Here you can see with other species. The Edmondoa is here, are surrounded by Nidularium, and I think these are Vrigias. I'm not so sure, but here I'm sure it's Nidularium, maybe Nidularium innocenti. And again, here you can see a Vrisia carinata. It's just a little part of our rainforest to see how beautiful they are there. This is the variegated form of Edmondoa. Very beautiful. The genus Neuregelia, we have only one species, and in Santa Catarina, no species at Rio Grande do Sul state. Here's a lot of them in the soil and like an epiphytic. A close-up of the flowers, the Regelia levis, the only one species that happens there. I think we have 30 or 40 New Regelia species. I have this number in some place here, but it's the only one species we have here at Santa Catarina State. Nidularium, we have 4 species. One easy to identify, that Nidularium innocenti, and the other 3 ones, I think they are always very difficult to say what is and what is not. This one is a problem. I don't know if it's Nidularium amazonicum or Nidularium jonesianum, because we have to see the flowers for see what species it is. Nidularium innocenti is easier by its color, by the form of its inflorescence. Again, Nidularium innocenti, very nice population in the rainforest. The same plants caught by another angle. Nidularium innocenti, in other situation, you can see how soft is this green, because they are not under exactly in the interior of the forest. And these 2 plants are exactly in the interior of the same forest, but far from the sun. So the leaves get this kind of green. This one, I think it's Amazonicum because I have it like that. I have noted it in some paper, but I'm not so sure. It's a very beautiful one, very large plants. The genus Tillandsia, one of the most known in the world. Many of you, I think, cultivate this genus. It's the genus that we have most species in Rio Grande do Sul. I think the exact number I'm not so sure, but I think it's 30 or 35 species. A lot of them are new species described by Theresia and Henrique Buneker the last decades. Now you're gonna see that this is maybe my favorite one. You're gonna see the quantity of photos we're gonna see now, and the great quantity of color form variations that I'm always think it's very important to see, especially in Tillandsia airanthus, Tillandsia stricta, and Tillandsia geminiflora, that are my favorites. And we begin with Tillandsia airanthus. I always say that my city, Porto Alegre, capital of my state, should be called the Tillandsia airanthus capital, because we have a lot of specimens of this plant in every tree you can see. In the months of July and August, we have this blooming. You can find it in all the city, and in a lot of color variations.
Filipe,
Here's a little collection of these colors. The typus 1 is this. Some variations of the typus, like this and this, and a lot of other variations completely different from that one. You can see pink bracts with white flowers. You can see the completely white flowers. You can see this one is some kind of yellow or orange bracts. You can see these little fantasy bracts and sepals and petals too. So for the guys that like make a collection of bromeliads, this maybe is the most interesting collection he can have.
Filipe, also, this is probably the single most important first Tillandsia that people get as collectors here in America, aside from Tillandsia airanthus. They will begin their collection with this most common form of airanthus.
Yeah. Well, it's again a collection of its color varieties. I think that we have 18 or 19 color form. Like I said before, we have the typos and some variations of the typos, like this, maybe the six first ones, and then begins a great quantity of other color variations. This is one of my favorites, the Alba bracteata. The Alba form is always beautiful too. This pink one, I think Teresa still did not have time to see this one while she was alive, because I'm sure she would describe this like a new variety. The Alba bracteata is described like a variety. The Alba is described. This one is described like flava variation, but this one was never described. This is the pink one. This is called the variety pink.
You know, it's very informative to have them all together and seeing the variations, which is very, nobody would typically see this. The way you put it together is excellent.
Yeah, that's why I think I like it so much. It's a work of many years that when you can do something like that, you really get very happy, because you can see your working is doing all right. Okay, then it really makes me happy.
Very great.
Now we're gonna see some of those varieties. This is an Alba form living together with the Typus form, the same tree. It is very interesting to tell how it works here. We could say that July, August, and the beginning of September are the 3 months it's blooming here. It's all the time I'm going to the sidewalk and looking for any tree, just looking up here, looking up there to find a new situation. And sometimes you come back to the same place you are every year, and then you see finally something that you didn't see before. And because it's always changing. It's always changing. And we never know if the new plant that will bloom in 4 or 3 years, what color will be there. It's just a very surprising situation. It's very good. Here again, our friend, the Cambasica, with I think there are something like 50 flowers there, or inflorescences there, or maybe more. It's a picture I took in 15 years ago, I believe.
Mm.
Again, the same guy. Again and again.
Very nice.
This is the Alba form. This is the most beautiful specimen with Alba flowers I have found. 15 flowers, 15 flourishes, I believe it was. This is the Alba bracteata I was talking before, maybe the most beautiful one, because this contrast we have between the white bracts and the blue flowers. The very, very strong blue flowers, you see. A semi-alba form. It was not described. It's a name I gave it to this color variation. Semi-alba because it's alba, but just the flowers, not the bracts. That pink one I was telling before that I think Teresa would like to describe, but didn't have time for that. Tillandsia bella, this was described by Teresa, but it's larger than Tillandsia iranthus and endemic to a little part of the state. You can see the difference, how few flowers it has, but the same colors of Tillandsia iranthus, the same colors of Tillandsia winkleri, Tillandsia jonesi, Tillandsia itaubensis, and other species. Most of them endemic to Rio Grande do Sul. Here's Tillandsia bella again, the way it lives on the rocks. You can see how it must be beautiful when it's blooming. I never was there in its blooming time. You can see how beautiful it must be. Again, Tillandsia bella with some cactus, other species. Great colony. Tillandsia crocata, one of the most beautiful and fragrant Tillandsias we have. It's not easy to find. It's a species that we have in other places of South America. I believe you can find it in Argentina and in Uruguay, but it's difficult to find. You have to find the right place to find it. and it has the yellow color form. You can see this. Very fragrant one. Tillandsia gardneri, it's very known. Many people like to cultivate this one because of the beauty of its florist. A close of its flowers. You can see the texture of the bracts, so beautiful.
Beautiful.
This contrast between the strong pink and that soft pink there, it's really beautiful. In nature, on a tree. This has a characteristic gray color in the leaves that is fine to see what species it is, even it's not blooming. Even if it's not blooming, you can see what species it is. Here it's again, like I'm saying, the gray leaves. Here it's beside the Tillandsia usneoides. This photo I take 4 days ago. Tillandsia gemniflora, one of the most known too, has a lot of color variations. It's one of the most beautiful Tillandsias I know. Here in my house, in a tree in my house, a photo from last year. Here a situation that is not easy to find. Tillandsia gemniflora as a rupiculus, living with a rupiculus habit. Usually it is just like an epiphyte, just like on the trees, not on the rocks. Here it's easier to find, living on wires. Again, Tillandsia gemniflora. 3 color forms, the alba one and other 2 next to the typus one. The alba one was not described, I think, but it should be because it's really a very important color form of these species. Very difficult to find. Here it is again, the alba form. The gemniflora has this situation. It's always important to see. The name gemniflora comes from Gemini, would be twin flowers, because it's always have 2 flowers gathered together. You can see here, and this one here, here, and here. It gives the name to the species. The twin flowers. Leucopetala, a very beautiful one. It's endemic to Rio Grande do Sul. The Tillandsia malemonte is always, it's a very known species. Many collectors like this one because it's very fragrant. And it has a little color form variations too, even the white flowers. The most common is this one, this kind of color. It's very fragrant too, very, very fragrant. This is the typus one. These are 2 color forms gathered together, living together in the nature. Here's the way it likes to be on a tree, like a ball of leaves. With this little hummingbird. It's in my house too. These hummingbirds like very much the malemonte flowers. Not only these species of hummingbird, but the other 2 or 3 that comes every day. Another species that like very much to be on wires. I have a theory about it, and I'm gonna tell it later when we will see a Tillandsia recurvata. These I gathered the 4 species because they're very similar in its leaves, but the flowers gets the difference. Maybe Tillandsia tricolepis, this one is the most different between the 4, but the other 3 are very related. This is recurvata I was talking before, one of the smallest flowers we have in this genus between the Tillandsias of Rio Grande do Sul. Recurvata likes to be everywhere you see. Wires, walls, doors, leaves of other plants. It's very easy to find it. Here, that what I was talking before, the way they like to be in wires. My theory, I was talking, is that it's easy to find these populations near from milk industries that make cheese and something like that, because I think the smoke of the factories makes a very interesting situation to them in these wires. They like to be there because they born there, and they bloom there because the smoke of the factories get some kind of fertilizers to be there and to be their life okay in these situations. Not with milk products, but also food for dogs and food for cats. It's easy to find this situation of Tillandsia in wires around factories of food for dogs. So I think there is a relation between the smoke of those factories and these plants on the wires. Here's another situation, an isolated specimen in the city, in the heart of the city, in the heart of Porto Alegre. It's Tillandsia recurvata too. Here the same species, but on a tree. And this one I like very much to show because it's a bridge in the interior of the state that is a real nursery of bromeliad and orchids. You can see 4 or 5 species gathered together in the structure of the bridge. You have Tillandsia recurvata here, Tillandsia recurvata here on the iron. Here it's on the wood, on the bridge. Again, here is a Vrisia species, and here a Cattleya, and again Tillandsia recurvata and Tillandsia stricta too. In 4 or 3 steps, you can see a lot of plants. Here's another situation, very interesting. Tillandsia recurvata on a statue in a cemetery in the interior of Rio Grande do Sul. It makes
Great.
the art gets better and better. No? I like very much this one. Tillandsia stricta, another one with a nice group of color form variations. It's another one that makes me go to the search of these variations. In December and January, it's time they bloom here. 3 of its colors. This one with white petals and pink sepals. A white form, Tillandsia stricta alba form, very beautiful. So beautiful, like Tillandsia eranthus alba form. 2 specimens in situ. Some species with a Vrisia, I don't know what Vrisia is there, maybe Vrisia rodriguesiana. No wire. That same bridge of the other pictures again, now with a Tillandsia stricta. Here you see some possible natural hybrids between stricta and Gemini-flora. These are 3 different plants, but they have some characteristics that make me think the 3 ones are really natural hybrids between them. You can see the 2 flowers here, like Gemini-flora characteristic. You can see it again. And you can see the colors that makes remember Tillandsia stricta and the vegetable. Again, one of them. Again, you can see the 2 flowers together. Here, 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 here. here characteristic of Gemini-flora, and the color characteristic of the two species. I think the two species are united in this one. I described this some years ago like Tillandsia Endler, an article published by the Bromeliads. Tillandsia tenuifolia, another one that has a lot of color variations and a lot of varieties described separated one from another. Here you have Saxicula and here Strobiliformis. This is variety Strobiliformis in the Araucaria forest with a great Ecmea recurvata here. I was thinking when I was there, I have to come back to see recurvata blooming too, but I'm not so sure then tenuifolia will be blooming in the same day. So we have to be lucky or not. Maybe they never blooming together. But I know exactly where this plant is, and I have to go there again. Then tenuifolia variety Saxicula again, a close up of the flowers. Is this variety Saxicula in the nature. This one likes to be under full sun. The other one, it's easier to find in the interior of the forest, in the interior of the Araucaria forest. Again, variedade Saxicula. And the variety Vaginata. Very similar to Tillandsia eranthus, but with not so many flowers, and it's smaller than that. Tillandsia toropiensis, it was described in 1984, endemic to Rio Grande do Sul too. Very nice color form. Sometimes the flowers are white, sometimes they are a little blue, like these flowers. Tillandsia tricholepis, a very delicate one, very small flowers, and these leaves that makes the vegetal very easy to be described, to see what species it is. There's no other species in Rio Grande do Sul with this form of the vegetal. Tricholepis again, closes of the flowers. They're easy to find on our trees, in the sidewalks and houses. Tillandsia usneoides, this one we know that goes until the United States, until Louisiana, Florida. You know, it's easy to find it along all the coast of South America, Central America, and the south of the United States. A close-up of the flowers, very difficult to see the flowers, not because they're just small, but because it's not all the time they are blooming. There's not a regular time to see when they are blooming. This is the way we find it in our forest along the coast. Many times with some orchid species like this one, Brassavola tuberculata. Another close-ups of the flowers. We can see how interesting are the leaves. Again, with some orchids here. The old Oncidium flexuosum, today called Gomeza flexuosa, and with Tillandsia eranthus here. They make these very beautiful curtains. Here you can see it, usneoides living as rupiculus, again with orchid, Brassavola tuberculata, and another orchid here is Oculus linearis. Here you can see the Brassavola making a nest for this. The Tillandsia making a nest for this Brassavola. I think this is the most beautiful Brassavola tuberculata I ever saw in my life. Maybe 60 or 70 flowers there, and the Tillandsia recovering it. It's in the coast of Rio Grande do Sul too, not far from the sea. Tillandsia schifioides, very fragrant too, with these beautiful white sepals. I used to find it as a rupiculus one, sometimes on trees, but most of the times as a rupiculus on the rocks. Again, here a lot of them are blooming. Again, here a little group of Tillandsia vincleri. Orjonese, I'm not so sure what of these two species could be because they are very similar. They live in the same places, Tillandsia jonese and Tillandsia vincleri. They both were described by Theresia 20 years ago. Tillandsia schifioides again, these ones, and vincleri or jonese again. A great population of the two species and some orchids too. Here is maxillaria. Yeah, this is one of the most beautiful places I ever seen. This picture I taken in the middle of the river. I am in the middle of the river looking up, and these are great rocks in the two sides of the river. Tillandsia vincleri or jonese here, and very separated, you can see from here to there, Tillandsia vincleri. This kind of green leaves are from Tillandsia vincleri, not, excuse me, Tillandsia schifioides, this one. And here, or vincleri or jonese. And here, a maxillaria. Again, the same place, but now you can see the vincleri or jonese blooming. Again, you can see the roots, the way they are here again. The roots are very special because it's longer than the leaves.
Your pictures are extraordinarily beautiful.
Thank you, Ken.
Well, these plants must be hundreds of years old.
Yeah, for sure.
Easily.
For sure.
Maybe 500.
And you know, they were there waiting for someone to see that this was a new species because it was not described until 20 years ago. Then one day, Johnny Caldas da Silva and Theresia were there, and one of them asked, "What the thing is there? What's there? It's some kind of fern, some kind of bromeliad. What is there?" And then they found some specimens on the floor. And well, this is new. This is a new species. This is not Airanthus. This is not any kind of Tillandsia we know. Some years later, the two species were described: Tillandsia jonese, jonese because of Jones, the name, and Tillandsia vincleri, that is related to Winkler, the same that was of Acmea vincleri. Again, Tillandsia jonese or vincleri. Again, you can see how it looks like a great Airanthus, but with less flowers than Airanthus. It has 4, 5, 6 flowers, while Airanthus has sometimes 10 or 8 or 10 flowers or more. Again. And again, you can see here at left a variety with alba flowers, and here the typus flowers. I've got some of these flowers, and I made this picture. Where is it? No, it's not here, sorry. Again, vincleri or jonese. This rock is very interesting because it has his form, this kind of form, because it's around one of the waterfalls we have here. This waterfall. This place here is where that picture was taken. This one. And this one too, you can see. It's just like a ladder. And a great population of the species. Again, the waterfall. Tillandsia viteki, it's one of the most recently described Chilensis species we have, described by by Henrique Buneker 9 years ago. He described two species, Disviteki and Chilansia chasmophyta, that I never have seen because it's very different to get the places where they are in the canyons. But see, it is in my plans to go there and see one of them. Well, let's pass to Vrisia, another genus with a lot of species, almost 20 species we have here. Some varieties described, like Vrisia friburgensis, that has 3 varieties. We're going to see all of them now. Vrisia carinata may be the most delicate Vrisia species we have, and one of the most beautiful ones. Again, now in nature, it's easy to find in great population of this one. Always very beautiful. Again, carinata. This one, I'm not so sure what species it is. The other day I was talking with Pedro on Facebook because we were discussing about this group, Pedro. Remember that Corcovadensis group and Triangularis and other species. I'm not sure what is this one. Maybe Vrisia corcovadensis or maybe one of the species related to it. Again, the same species. This is Vrisia declinata from the Vrisia rodriguesiana group. It's one of the Araucaria forest. Vrisia flammea. It's very common, very easy to find it. See how it looks like that Corcovadensis, but this has ramified inflorescence, and Vrisia flammea is not. Here's a close of the flowers, very beautiful flowers, a little white. Here is the same species, but living in its habitat in the state of Santa Catarina, around one of the canyons they have there, near the canyon. A lot of plants, population very large, very beautiful to see it's blooming. The same place, another angle. Again, Vrisia flammea. Vrisia friburgensis, in the same place that I showed the Dickia colioides picture before, remember, around the sea at Santa Catarina State. Vrisia friburgensis, this is the variety paludosa. Again, the same plant. The other two varieties of friburgensis, the tucumanensis, this one at left, and the friburgensis at right. You can see the differences, including the color. This one, I'm not so sure what kind of friburgensis is it. This picture I take just a week ago. I could not get nearest from the place or see better the inflorescence, but I think maybe it is friburgensis too. Remember, friburgensis is this one, but it's not exactly like this one, the inflorescence. It's a little different. More flowers, more ramified, not so sure. It's a very beautiful plant, very, very beautiful. Vrisia gigantea, very known, one of the largest vrisias we have here, one of the most common too. The way they like to be can be under full sun or can be in the interior of the forest. Again, Vrisia friburgensis, Vrisia gigantea. Here you hear Vrisia rodriguesiana, you can see. This red one is rodriguesiana too. It gets more red when it's under full sun. Here's gigantea again. Here a beautiful picture, I like very much this one because it's a young Vrisia gigantea with some Cattleya intermedia specimens. and a nest of Tillandsia usneoides here, you can see. It's in the coast of Rio Grande do Sul too. Cattleya intermedia is one of the most cultivated orchid we have here because it's great variety of colors. You can see alba, you can see pink, you can see semi-alba, you can see a lot of colors, and the people like very much to make crossings between them. We have orchid shows with this flower, everything else. Brisa gigantea, in the same place we saw the Tillandsia vincleri before. Here with a lot of population of Maxillaria marginata. All this is an orchid, Maxillaria. Here the Tillandsia vincleri we were seeing before. And the Brisa gigantea here. And old inflorescence here. Here it is with another Cattleya that is very important to orchid lover, that is Cattleya tigrina or Cattleya leopoldis, the same species. You can see here how beautiful it is, and the Brisa gigantea is. It's an old tree, a ficus. Maybe it has 150 years or something like that, maybe more, with a lot of plants on the tree. Here it's Cattleya tigrina, here too, and the Brisas. Here the inflorescence of the Brisas, you can see these two. Here I'm showing how beautiful Cattleya tigrina is. I think it's more beautiful than Cattleya intermedia because its color is very interesting and it has a lot of flowers, maybe 20, maybe 25 flowers in the same plant. Brisa gutata is a very special one. You can find here just only in the Araucaria forest, always far from the sun. It likes very much the shadows, and not so far from the soil. Maybe 2 meters, 3 meters maximum far from the soil. And these very beautiful flowers it has. One of the most beautiful flowers I think we have here. Brisa gutata. Here the way they are in the middle of the forest. You can see how pendant is the forest here too. How beautiful are the leaves. We don't have any other bromeliad with this kind of leaves here. Remembers a little neoregelia or something like that. Like very much very wet places. Brisa incurvata, another species of the rainforest, but not the Araucaria forest. This one is from the Rio Atlantic forest. Very wet places. An interesting variety of colors, including this form described by Teresa Israel, like, I'm not so sure it was alba form or this flava form. Don't remember now. The way they are in the forest, in curvata. Paupérrima, one of the most simple we have here, but it has all its beauty too. It's not easy to find this one, and there's some 3 or 4 species that are related to her. But only this one we have at Rio Grande do Sul. Again, here you have a miniature orchid, Platyrhiza quadricolor, very small one. Here a tree full of Brisa paupérrima. Brisa Filipe, one of the large Brisa we have, with this very beautiful red inflorescence, sometimes at full sun and sometimes in the middle of the forest. Again, Brisa Filipe. It's very showy, very ornamental plant. Again, with the Tillandsia around it. And again. Remember now that old tree we were seeing when we were talking about Echinacea nudicaulis. Here is the same tree again. The Cattleya intermedia is there, and here is the Brisia Filippo-Coburgi. The same tree again, the Purpurata and the Brisia. Brisia platinema, one of the most ornamental ones we have. It blooms on our spring. And this is one of the few plants, few bromeliads we can find at sea level and in the middle of the Araucaria forest. Very interesting, this kind of situation, because it doesn't have a transition place where it's not found. We can see it around the rainforest and in the Araucaria forest too. There's some interesting color variations. I don't have pictures, but I have seen once one completely yellow, bracts and flowers completely yellow. It's a very beautiful plant, but I never seen to be later. It was only one time, and I was not with my camera. Again, a population in the rainforest. Brisia platzmani. I have seen this one only 2 times. It never get see it blooming in the nature, only at home. Very difficult to find this one. This is Brisia rastrensis, a species described by Elton Lemme 20 or 30 years ago. Typical from the Araucaria forest too. It has this interesting color, the red color of the leaves, that gets more red when it's exposed to full sun. Again, the rastrensis, see how red it is, how beautiful this one. It's easy to see it when you're walking in the Araucaria forest and there's a colony over there. Brisia heitzi, another one that is very large, typical from the Araucaria forest. You cannot find it far from the Araucaria forest. If I said before that Brisia platinema, you can find it also in the rainforest, this one, no. This one is only at the Araucaria forest. It was not described until 1989, because everybody used to think that it was just a variation of Brisia freiburgensis. Then Elton Lemme was there in a place around the high fields of Rio Grande do Sul and saw this one. Saw a lot of this one because there are too much specimens of this one. And he said, I don't know if it was with who he was. No, it's not the freiburgensis. It is a new species. And he described it, and he was right. It is really a species that was not described until that day. Brisia heitzi. I used to call it the queen of the Araucaria forest, but because you will see the next pictures, there's a lot of them, but really a lot of plants in the Araucaria trees. Here's Araucaria. Here you can see a lot of them here. Again, here is Achmea recurvata, this part of the tree. Again, the Brisia heitzi. A colony. This is the typical situation. You can see them in the Araucaria trees. A lot of plants gathered together. Besides one of our most beautiful orchids, Cattleya mantiqueira, the old Sophronitis mantiqueira. For many times, the people used to call it Sophronitis coccinea, but some years ago, they were separated from Cattleya mantiqueira, and the botanist Cassio Vandenberg explained that our plant we have here is Cattleya mantiqueira, not Cattleya coccinea. It's one of the most beautiful orchids we have. Again, a very, very beautiful form of this one in the Araucaria forest. Another Brisia, Rhodgasiana, very easy to find in the rainforest. It's very delicate, very small plant. and a very beautiful inflorescence. Here with a Chilanthus stricta. Under full sun, it's another species that can live under full sun and gets red and red when exposed to sun. This way. Here a lot of plants blooming. You can see how beautiful is this color red of the leaves and this yellow of the inflorescence. Here you have an old Vrisia gigantea inflorescence. It's easy to find trees full of these species blooming in this time of the year, our summer, January and February. Again, this has green leaves and a Chilanthus gardneri beside it. Vrisia rubroviridis. Until some years, we used to call this Vrisia procera, but some studies declare that this one is rubroviridis, not procera, that doesn't occur at Rio Grande do Sul. It can be a large inflorescence because sometimes it is in the middle of the forest and far from the sun. And then the inflorescence take to get more sun, being larger and getting out of the tree. Here it's a colony with a strange habit living on the floor, on the roof of an old house. 10 or 12 or 20 species.
It's amazing.
Together. You can see how interesting it is because you don't have a substrate, exactly a substrate in there, just a kind of old things there, a little soil, so little sand, nothing more than that, but enough to get them, and they are very nice there, very good situation. Again, the same species. Now you can see what I was telling before, the way they like to be in the middle of the tree. So the forest starts and go until to find maybe 1 or 2 meters away to get the flowers. Again, this species now with some Chilanthus gardneri. One of the most interesting Vrisia scalaris. It's another one that's not easy to find. You have to be in the right place to see them. And it's another species that blooms in our summer. Easy to cultivate with this beautiful inflorescence, this pendant inflorescence. Vrisia vagans, a very interesting one. This is from the rainforest. Again. And the last genus we will see, Vitrochia. Only one species here, Vitrochia superba. Maybe the large bromeliad we have in Rio Grande do Sul state. Difficult to see its flowers because it's like New Regelia. You have to see the tank for see the flowers, and most of the times the plant is on very high places and you can see there. You can go up there to see the flowers. All my pictures, I never had a good picture of the flowers blooming. This leaf has this red, it's characteristic of this species. Again, on a rock with Vrisia gigantea around it. And I think this is the last picture I have. Yeah. So I would like to thank you again for all this chance to be here with you today. There, my email, then I can pass it again later for you. This is our site we have about the orchids of Rio Grande do Sul, orquídeasgaúchas.net. Gaúchos because the people that live in Rio Grande do Sul, we call gaúchos, like the the Argentine people and the Uruguay people, gauchos, are we that live here.
We can
Okay.
we can find you on Facebook too, right?
Yeah, too. I know Barry from a long time. Barry and his planets, eh, Barry?
Yes. It's so nice to finally meet you
Oh,
alive.
great. There are a lot of years, maybe 10 or 12 years. I know you.
It's been about 13, 14 years since
Really
I
a pleasure.
started.
I want to say that was an absolutely fantastic presentation, one of the best I've ever seen. But I do have a question because I really like Tillandsia doradii, and you didn't show one. And I was
No.
wondering the level of variation of that
Yeah,
species in your
it,
area.
it is listed in the my Tillandsia list there, but I don't have it good picture. I don't have good pictures of this one. I have a white color variation, a blue variation, but the pictures I had, I could not find a good. I think I lost some pictures I had. Then I preferred not include it. But maybe next time.
Well, yeah.
Maybe.
Also, it grows in the eastern extent of your state, right? It's closer to Argentina.
You're right, Barry. It's more near from Uruguay and Argentina. Another species that I don't have too is Tillandsia ixioides. It's also from very near from Argentina, and I don't have it. I never saw it. I never saw it in any collection here. It's difficult to the people around me, and maybe someday I get it because it's a very restricted area where you can find it here.
And it's amazing to me, just to bring up a broader concept, uh, this mystery of the distribution of species of bromeliads within Brazil, but also within the continent, including all the way to South Central, Florida. How you have Ustioides everywhere. You might have stricta in 20 different places, but they might be within 2 states.
And
But
you can see with orchids too, it's the same thing.
Yeah. But with doradii, what's interesting to me is you have it in parts of Ecuador, in the dry areas, and even up into Bolivia. I have one form I got back in 1972 from Mike Kashkin. This is a famous Los Angeles nursery called Fuchsia Land that he hand collected. And this doradii, it can grow 14, 15, 20 feet long. And it's very different. Now, I've seen some that grow in the small oak trees on the pampas of Argentina. They grow east to west, and they can grow very long. But the leaves are different. The flowers are different. They're still doradii. So this a mystery.
It happens with Schiphioides too. Schiphioides has some very different specimens there and here.
Yeah,
the ones I showed are all from Rio Grande do Sul, but I know the Uruguay ones and the Argentina ones are different too.
That's right. And so, to me, it would be so amazing to fund some kind of research, either genetic and location types, about how and why bromeliads have done this. For instance, you guys have most or all of the Dickia species, but the Ancellariums grow further north, and then Hectia only grows in Mexico. I'm just bringing up ideas here. I'm not saying I know any answers, but the beauty
one day, maybe one day we had it.
The beauty of this is that so many, when you enter the collecting hobby in America, many of the first plants that we grow as collectors actually come from Brazil, but people don't realize this. But anyways, it's an astonishing thing. I loved your presentation. Now, you've been shooting photos, what, 30, 40 years?
For 28 years, 30 years. The first bromeliads I saw was Ecmenos de Caulis when I was at Florianopolis City at Santa Catarina. My oldest son had 2 years those days. It was 97, 98.
I got it.
25 years.
Okay.
25 years.
And when did you meet Pedro? How long ago?
I know him by friends because we have many friends in common, but we never met. But I'm a big fan
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
We have many many things in common. The passion for the good music of blues and rock.
Yeah.
But I'm a big fan of his job because he's probably one of the best Bromeliad photographers in Brazil now, together with Elton. And I love his job because he goes to the habitats and he pays that attention to that variation in species, and he has a fantastic photographic look.
Yeah.
Very, very good. I'm very happy to have him.
Thank you, Pedro. Thank you.
And
Don't
we,
say that.
we as the audience, you know, it's the nature of media. Nobody can even conceive of or really understand how much difficulty Filipe goes through to shoot these photos. It's all easy when you're just sitting in a computer consuming it, but he has sweated and had thorns in his arm, whatever. It's not an easy thing.
That is what does it make it so good to do it, because you know I have to get it, then you go there, you get it.
And it's a great service you do to all of society.
Thank you.
To us Bromeliad people to educate us.
What I
and
find
also for the future generations.
Yeah.
Because we know that a lot have been changing. Now we have climate change, and the forests have been changing, and we have been losing a lot of habitats on the last decade all over South America, Latin America, and it's very important to get that kind of pictures of wild habitats and wilderness, because in 200 and 300 years, people gonna look for that.
Yeah. Well, I told you that tree where you saw in time of the year purpurata blooming, in the other time of the year intermediate blooming, that tree doesn't exist anymore. That tree followed some years ago, and I never seen again another tree with the two specimens together. It's not so easy.
One of the things I noticed that was so interesting to me is that when I started collecting bromeliads in the early 1960s with my father, that many of the pictures you have were species that we had in the collection. But if you look behind me, I have a lot of hybrids now. And some people only want to collect species, some want to collect both, but many that you showed were in my collection when I started, and it brings back fond memories.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Well, I want to take 1 minute here, or a couple of minutes, and just ask Pedro. I know, Pedro, you have a nursery and a farm and I guess a landscaping business. I'm sorry to move from you, Filipe, but I want to ask Pedro, what is happening? Give us an update on your activities.
Yeah, I'm not inside the landscaping business too much, because I'm full-time dedicated to the nursery and the pineapple business, and I'm very busy right now because we are expanding the production around the 10 acres at the beginning of 24. But the real thing that is going on is that I have been traveling to the Amazon, and in 3 days I'm gonna be back in the Amazon. This time to the Negro River. Gonna be the third trip since October, and I'm expecting to be there 3 to 4 weeks, and I'm gonna bring beautiful pictures for you. Not as good as Filipe's, but pictures of that beautiful place.
But
one of the most beautiful places in Amazon.
I saw some pictures. I saw some pictures. Very, very nice.
We would just love to see. We'll do a Zoom just about your trip. It doesn't have to necessarily be only Bromeliads. We want to hear what you're doing.
Yeah, let's plan that. It's not easy because we have the worst dryness period in Amazon in history in this year. But in last time I was there in November, the end of November, the rain came back, and I'm expecting to have the rivers much better to navigate right now.
I heard about the drought, and that there were no boats going up the river for trade even. But just remind us, So you have I guess you have a new brand for your pineapples, for your red pineapples
Yeah.
that you've introduced in Brazil. What is the brand name? Tell us about that.
Oh yeah, we have that Puan brand that is for our red pineapple natural genetics, and we have been developing that for the last 3 decades, and now we have a portfolio of varieties, and we're getting scale of the production, and it's very I'm very happy with that because we have been working a lot, and things are doing very nice now. And I'm studying the origin of the Ananas comoso species in Amazon. There is a lot of diversity there, and I'm finishing an article that maybe I'm gonna publish in the BSI journal about my ideas about the origin of the pineapple. So I'm going to Amazon mainly to look at the genetic variation and the way that the pineapple changes from one place to the other. Last time in November, I was in the triple boundary of Peru, Colombia, and Brazil, and I went through the Amazon to Iquitos city, 600 kilometers up to the Amazon River, and this time I'm going to the boundary of Brazil, Colombia, and Venezuela. Maybe I'm gonna get into Venezuela like 500 kilometers up to the Orinoco River. Let's see how it's gonna be about the level of the Negro River. But I'm gonna bring a beautiful picture for you, and we can schedule a meeting to show it up.
Well, and then I hope in the future, and maybe with my help, we're going to see dried Brazilian red pineapple here in America.
Yeah, for sure.
I have a new connection at Trader Joe's, so maybe we
Great.
can get this product to home.
Yeah.
Well,
That's great.
listen,
We have a new technology now to do natural dry flesh of the pineapples as you do it in California with the grapes, the sun-made grapes, and they become delicious because they are full of sugar, and the taste is really good.
yeah. Well, listen, I want to thank you guys a lot. Oh,
What a great presentation. And
It's the same guy. It's the same guy here. No problem.
Very nice guy.
great presentation, really. Thank you very much.
yes.
I say thank you.
And I don't know if there's anything else. Anybody have anything else?
Just can't
Okay.
wait to see you guys again.
Yeah, maybe we can have a presentation about birds or something else from you someday. Well, listen, thank you very much. And I know
I
our
say
audience thanks you. I don't know if this will be 1 or 2 videos. I think it's long enough to be 2 videos, but we'll figure that out in the editing room.
How much I have talked? 1 hour and 40, 1 hour and 30, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
I think it's okay.
It's probably enough.
I was really worried about because there were a lot of pictures too.
Don't worry.
Every second was perfect.
I could probably cut it
Okay.
in half. We'll see. Well, thank
Okay.
you, Pedro. Pedro's the one who brought us Luiz or Filipe. And, again, as I say, to me, it's just important to make the world understand how important Brazil has been in the past.
Okay.
And, many of these resources, perfectly honestly, were stolen. They were stolen by Europeans.
I know.
We cannot focus on this past. We have to focus on the future. And the future is to preserve these habitats.
It has been stolen for 524 years.
Yeah, I know. But
524 years.
the future is to preserve the habitats. That's what we got to figure out.
Oh, that's it.
All right.
That's it.
All right, I want to thank you guys for attending and bringing the presentation. And people can find you. They know both of you are available on Facebook
Right.
if they want to reach you.
It was a pleasure for me too. I say thank you again.
Sure.
Really, really nice time.
And thank Ken for administrating the meeting. And we'll see you soon.
Okay,
Great.
bye.
I'm gonna
Okay.
stop recording.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.